I'm Coach Seb, and this is Running New Mexico. All right, joining me today, I have Bruce Gomez. He's the head cross country coach at Taos. He has been inducted to the New Mexico Track and Cross Country Coaches Hall of Fame. He's been a Coach of the Year. He's been coaching for over 35 years, some amazing runners, some amazing people I've run against, and coaching his own daughter now, which is amazing. And so thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome, Coach Romero. I'm really pleased, and I'm very I feel honored that we met at that time in Vegas this spring at the track meet, and you mentioned that you're doing these podcasts and running, and I noted your enthusiasm and how you're so knowledgeable, and you really have a drive for learning more about and sharing what here's in New Mexico. And I was really actually I was really touched by that. I said, wow, we got a young person here who's really into this, and I thank you. Yeah. And
yeah, of course.
I'm sorry, but I do remember you though after we were talking, and I said, oh yes. Oh yeah, I remember you.
Yeah, I got to. I don't know if race against is the best term. I had a couple of close races with Ben Ortega. One of your, talk about a standout runner. He was amazing and really state champion. In cross country, track. Just went to UNM. Fantastic runner.
Yeah, Ben was. He had his breakout race over at the golf course his sophomore year, and you were there, I believe. Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
And he qualified for state, and we went down, and he finished kind of a little bit far back that time. I can't remember the place. It was like 50s or something, and he was so disappointed. And we were driving home, and he came up to me to the front, and he sat down next to me and said, I want to be the state champ. What do I need to do? What do I need to do between now and next year? I said, oh my gosh. So we had a long talk. It was really, we spoke for probably about an hour, and I could just see that look in his face and his eyes. He was serious about it. I said, oh, okay, well, let's see. And he started running right away that winter, spring, and he won the next year.
That's what we all hope for, right? Is those kids
exactly. Exactly. Hope that it all comes together,
right?
With everything,
right? And they have that drive. You got to have that drive.
Yes,
because I don't think that's something you can coach. It has to be internal.
Yes. Good.
So let's go back a little bit. Yeah, how did you get into running?
Well, I think it was it's running is pretty much a part of our culture. Everything, being native, every native people in New Mexico and throughout the country as well. It's like imbued in who we are, and when I was growing up, I would hear of so and so that was a really good runner, and then we have foot races at the Pueblo, and it's just a part of our whole traditions. And you see these young guys come out, and older men too, and we run our foot races, and they just literally come out of the woodwork, and they're really fast. and it's totally, it's just amazing, right in our backyard. Then you don't see him again. And then, so it's just like almost, it's pretty natural. It's just like a part of who we are. And, I go to every Pueblo and every, the Diné, Apache, and it's the same, and so I really can't say when I actually started, but I think I did start like when I was about probably 13, I think. But I do remember, see, my mom was Diné. She was from Sawmill, Fort Defiance, and she was from the Damon family, and also the Roanhorse and Wilson family, and so I have relatives out there, and they, every summer I remember we used to go out there. My late mom and dad would do a summer trip out to Navajo land, and it was always a pretty big deal. We'd be driving down I-25 in the back of a truck or whatever we ended up going with, and we would get out there, and it was we'd be out there with the sheep, and it was just another. It's a whole different environment, from Taos Pueblo, and I think I remember one time my uncle Leafy Damon said, "We're going to run down to the corrals, to the sheep corrals and back," and I was probably about 7 years old, I think, maybe, and the corral was probably I'd say maybe a half mile away, but it just looked so far away. And, and so we ran down there and ran back. I just remember coming back. We was downhill going down and coming uphill, and it was like, at the time, it was one of the hardest things I've done, and it was like, oh my gosh, and I made it back, and he had finished, and he was telling me, "Don't lie down, don't lie down. You gotta keep walking around." And I just remember that was probably my first real taste of like cross country running. And that was and then I remember also in the second grade, we used to go out to Intermountain boarding school over in Brigham City, Utah, north of Salt Lake, and it was 2004, I think it was. I was it, yeah, 2000 2004. I remember driving out to Oregon, then coming down the coast, and it was a solo drive, and I drove through Salt Lake, and I said, I think I want to find that place. So I did. I actually found where the school was, but it had already been raised. It was just cinder block, little, just the footings, everything was on the base, and I was able to figure out where we stayed.
Wow.
And I actually saw where the track was, because I remember our PE coach at the time would make us run one lap around. It just seemed like so far away, and that was my first memory of running around a track, and it was just and anyway, but getting back to your question, I would say I was maybe about 13 when I actually started running regularly, and just running around on the tribal land where it was just one of those things that I just love to do, and I just really enjoyed the solitude and the quiet and being up there, and it was just something I just found that was just so nice, and I still enjoy doing that.
That's
even
great.
As far, I go out for 20 minutes in the morning, and it's a walk jog, but hey, I'll take it. I enjoy it.
You got to find those ways to continue to be active, right?
Yes.
And it's great that you're still able to have that love of it, and even that it's not where you used to be, but you're happy to get out there and take the time that you can to enjoy that time kind of to yourself.
Yes. Yeah, it's I think that's one of the joys of that's one of the joys of being out there. Is just it's just so beautiful, and I I just like to get out there and move. It's just a really nice feeling. And,
Yeah.
and
You mentioned, about these people that would come out to some of the foot races at the Pueblo and then you never see them again. It's always interesting to me because, in high school as a runner and even now as a coach, seeing some of these, indigenous runners who are so good, at the high school level and great. And it's so hard to see them, sometimes take that next step in the college, and even seen them, at that next level, whether it's, semi-pro, pro. I know we're seeing more of them because it's social media, but it's so hard because you see so many of these good ones, especially here in New Mexico, like, oh man, they're going to do amazing things. And then, sometimes you don't always hear what, where they go on to.
yeah, it's I think a lot of it has to do with the sense of the tradition and it being more ceremonially than anything, and some decide to, well, it's just, they just want it to be that way, and that's fine too, all good. And
Absolutely.
they're very, very graceful and just nonchalant about it, real humble, and that's wonderful. I like that.
I get that. There's something, just, for yourself as well. There's that aspect of, it's for you, your own private, practices or whatever. So that makes sense. And so, you ran through high school, you ended up running a little bit in college. You were at the University of Colorado. So how did you end up there?
I was I really wasn't a standout in high school, and I was like a 10-20 440 miler, 10-22 miles, and that was trying as hard as I could. So I certainly, it's they're good times, they're good for me, but they certainly wouldn't raise any eyebrows, anywhere. And I went to CU because I'd never been there. I had never been to Boulder before, but I just took a chance because I heard that it was, I would hear stories of this really nice, this really great, like back then, there was Ted Castaneda and John Gregorio, and there's a whole history already being created in Boulder. And when I was deciding to go to college, and I was being the first one to leave it in our extended family for college, and I really didn't have a compass outside of that. Well, so I took a chance, and it was pretty amazing. I was very, very fortunate, coach in meeting some pretty amazing people. I got there my freshman year, and I just remembered I walked on to, I knocked on the track coach's door, and it was Coach Don Myers, and he was a pole vault and a long jump NC2A champion back in the early 60s. And he's just an amazing human being. And he, I knew nothing of him. And Ken Swenson was the cross-country coach at the time, and he held the American record at 800 meters at the time. He ran for Kansas State, and he was in the 72 Olympic team for 800 meters, and he was number 2 in the world. Unfortunately, he got tripped in the semifinals, so he didn't make it into the finals.
Oh, wow.
But he was there, and they, just a shy kid walking over to a door, that was a big deal. And I knocked on the door, and they welcomed me. They did not even question, who are you, what, and they didn't even ask me what kind of times I ran. Like, yeah, come on. And so, I did improve, pretty good, but I certainly was not a star. And, I was I was on an academic scholarship through the AIPC, the All Indian Pueblo Council, and then plus the SEOG and BOG grants. Those are federal grants of that time.
Okay.
And I have to say that it, although I did not run, I did do some in college. I certainly was not one of those star athletes that people hear about, but I gained so much insight and into training people and just how people are and finding and how people find the good stuff out of people, and that's
Right.
the amazing thing about the running community is you meet so many good people, so many nice people, and I still do, even to this day, like running into you, meeting you. I mean, like it's just it's an amazing community that just it just continues to grow, and I would do everything right now to go make it to the World Championships in Eugene right now, but I unfortunately won't be able to do it this year. And I know that they're having a blast. It's just it's just a wonderful thing. How the connections go on, and I think it's because of the running community that I was able to complete school and get my degree. And I'm really thankful for that. And I ended up coming back to New Mexico and ended up becoming a coach and then passing on that information, that knowledge, whatever I could. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, I'd love to hear that you're still a fan and keeping up, and I mean, it's pretty amazing that we get to have world championships here in the United States. And yeah, I mean, I wish I was there as well to see. I mean, there's going to be some amazing performances, we already know that, and to be able to have it, in Eugene in the United States is, it's an honor.
Yes, it is. We're very fortunate, and it's a really good thing, I think, for the sport and for it to get more exposure here in the United States, because it's track and field still is a minor sport,
Mhm.
and it's really comparatively speaking, to other sports, and but it's a really great thing. It's a really, really great place to be, and anyway, getting back to what you first asked me, that's when I was in Boulders, when I met all these wonderful people like Pablo Vigil, Rick
Oh,
Rowe,
yeah.
the Colorado Track Club, and I got to run with Frank Shorter, and he's been what he has done for running has just been absolutely it's a model for all of us, and it's just one of those things like, wow, did that actually happen? Oh yeah, it did. So anyway,
Yeah. And Frank Shorter, he did a little training in Taos, right?
yes, he was his family lived here, and I do recall seeing him running in Taos, you know, in the early 70s. And,
Wow.
and he was just, you know, at the time, I think he was a college student at Yale at the time. And yeah, so he did spend some time here in not just Taos, but New Mexico.
Right.
And,
How was that transition for you going from, Little Taos to Boulder, Colorado?
well, Boulder at the time was not that big. It definitely was a whole completely different environment. The community, and it took some work. It took some adjustments, and I think we all grow. And I think we all develop and get better. And I think one of the biggest challenges I had was just overcoming my innate shyness of communicating. That was a big deal, to try and get past that, to be able to, having grown up in a, it's just the reservedness of who we are, that took some, but I tell you, there was I couldn't trade it for anything else, as far as making that choice, and I encourage any, young people who are out there, and they want to, really expand their, who they are, their horizons. Right now my daughter is doing a workshop with College Horizons, and one of the instructors is Doug Dormey's daughter, Danae.
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
There's just an amazing bunch of people who are working with young Native kids, and it's something that's always been needed. And when I'm actually witnessing it, with through my daughter, it's just such a really wonderful thing to be able for them to be able to have those opportunities. That now this it's good, and it's just I'm trying to say is, take that step, go forward, check it out and see what happens, and you just don't know what doors are going to open up for you, and you keep going forward, and you find more doors, and you just keep going forward, and there's a lot to be explored, and it's very exciting.
No, I agree. It's there's so much, that running can help you be a part of, and it's not the end all be all. It's not everything, but it does open doors and allows you to, meet new people and find things that other avenues that you might not have known, before that you could be interested in. And so did you, as you were kind of running and going to school, did you know you wanted to be a coach?
Not really. I don't think I really had it in my mind to do that. And I think it kind of evolved into that. And when I was doing my student teaching, the PE teacher at Baseline Junior High there, he knew that I did a lot of running, so he asked if I wanted to assist him with middle school track, and I did. And I actually we used to go to meets around the neighborhood, so to speak, over in the Boulder, North Denver area, and I really I started getting I think I started getting a taste for it and really getting hooked, seeing a kid improve it was a lot of fun. I really had a good time, and I remember the day that I graduated from college. It was a track meet over at Fairview High School, and I the middle school was having their last meet of the year, and I went over. I showed up there, and the kids were so wonderful. They were all so gracious. They were congratulating me and all that. And um, I just had some really great experiences there, and I think that was that little light to saying, hey, maybe this is something you could do, later on, and I kind of didn't get into it right away. I didn't get actually into it immediately, but once I did, I really, I stuck to it. This is going to be my 38th season, I think, this coming fall. And I've got and you've been there, Sebastian. I mean, we all have as coaches, and I've got a new batch of young kids, and we've been doing summer conditioning, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and they're very they're really excited. They show up and they do their little stretches and all their little dynamic moves and all that stuff before they run, and they can hardly wait to get going. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you gotta go again. Okay. And there's some 8th graders, 9th graders, and then I was like, oh, okay, here we go again. Here comes a new class. So it's all good. And
It's fun. I mean, they keep you young, right?
yes. I mean, there's days that, how it is towards the end of the season where it just starts to get tiring. It is exhaustive work. It does take it out of you. And, I sleep for probably a week after the season's over. I don't want to do anything else. But it's worth it. I mean, it's really a good, you see a kid improve, and some make real short little steps, some make big steps, and some make, you won't see them if you happen to work with them for 3 years. You suddenly see a huge improvement, out of the blue, and you just never know. And you just try and, I think one of the biggest part of coaching is just saying the right thing, encouraging, and then see what happens.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's so fun to watch the excitement and to watch them grow and to watch them, whether it's a little improvement of just, being able to complete a workout without walking, or, whatever it is, it's just so fun to just see them grow.
Right.
And you again, you just talked about your daughter. She's graduating this year. I'm in the same boat.
Right.
And what has it been like for you to kind of manage that line between coach and dad?
I think we have a, we have a real good understanding, that when we're over there with the team and all, she's on the team, and she's really good about that, and she's very mindful of that. And sometimes it's just it is, you can't help it. There's overlap between home and with and when you're out in practice, it's just, it happens.
Right.
But you do the best you can, and I'm really fortunate for our daughter, who she just absolutely loves it, and when she was little, she would go out for runs, and the one big thing that I really have been mindful is to never let her just be a pushy parent that's trying to make her do all this stuff. She does it because she enjoys it, and that's the important thing. Is you've got to be able to let them do that, and there's just no way in the world that I'm going to have her go beyond that. That's really important, and because I've just seen, in my years, some parents who will just go a little bit overboard with trying to push their kids, and a lot of times it bounces back in the negative, and then a lot of times you get incredible results. They become amazing athletes, and there's really nothing wrong with encouraging your child to improve, but you have to also be very careful in not making it where it's an obsession and you're overdoing it with them. And so I think we have a really good, pretty decent understanding there, and the main thing is, you just enjoyment of really enjoying being out there.
Yeah, I agree. It's after seeing parents like that, it's you don't want to fall into that same trap, and I mean, that's what you want for most of the kids, right? Is to be out there because they enjoy it, not because of that they're being pushed too hard to be out there, because then once they're done, once they have no one pushing them, the love of it, the love isn't really there, so it just kind of goes away. So kind of trying to instill that idea of this is something that you should enjoy to an extent, because whether you continue competing or not, you can continue running.
Yes, that's the whole point. And for me anyway, I certainly, I won't judge another coach and what they do anything, but it's just, I only push a kid to the point of where they really want to go there, and you certainly want to let them, explore what their possibilities are.
Right.
But you have to really kind of have a sense of how far you can go with that, and kids are really fragile. I mean, like I swear, man, so many times, like I'm like, I'll have a 40-year-old come up to me, and it just happened to me recently. I was filling up some gas over on the north side, over by the blinking light. We call it the old blinking light on the north side of town, and this young man, he was probably about 44, maybe. I couldn't recognize him right off the bat because he had a beard and everything, and he goes, I want to thank you. He just came up to me and goes, I want to thank you. You changed my life. I said, oh my God. And then he goes, he had run track and cross with me. And he was just really, I was just so like, I just got in my truck. I said, wow. I sat in my truck for a little bit. I said, whoa, that was just completely out of the blue, that this man came up to me, and it does happen, and it was just, sometimes you don't pay it seems like maybe you're not paying heed to what is being said or what you do, but you are making an impact, and it is happening, and that's why we want to do what we can and hope that we're doing the right thing, because we are human. Sometimes we'll say the wrong thing, or we will maybe do the wrong thing and not giving them the right advice or whatever, but we do what we can, and we just don't know how we're affecting people, that's really important.
Yeah, I've gotten the same sentiment from a lot of coaches that I've had on before, and just that idea, you don't know the effect that you're going to have on a kid, and you can only hope that it's going to be positive, right? That they're going to look back on that time that they spent with you and look at it in a positive way. And but you've done this for a long time, and so I think probably most of your interactions have been positive.
Yeah. And
uh, uh, you also took part in when I was my dad had told me about this before, but you also, in 1980 they had the Tricentennial, kind of an anniversary run of the Pueblo Revolt run. What was that experience like? And I know there's a book out there that kind of chronicles some of this as well, but what was that experience like for you?
well, the Pueblo, what there was known as the Tri-Centennial Commission that was created back in 1978, I think, and it was spearheaded by the late Herman Agoyo from Okewenge, and it was in order to bring to attention the 300th anniversary of the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, when the Pueblos and some of the other natives of New Mexico joined in driving out the Spanish government and out of New Mexico, and they wanted to make a statement to make it known that this was a really important part of Native American history, and it was based around the fact that there was a lot of religious cultural persecution of Native people, and with the coming of with European contact, and the the history is pretty harsh. It happened. It's for real, and we can't deny that it happened. And we all hope that history does not repeat itself, in a lot of ways. And the what happened was, it was just basically an accumulation of persecution through the years and during this period. And so in 1680, as a result of a long years, no one really knows the exact story, because there was no written record at the time. It's all a faint oral history, and that it was the plan was created at Taos Pueblo, and it was planned, but it had to have been planned in other pueblos as well. But there's a man by the name of Pope, who was one of the leaders, and he was from Okewenge, and it means his name is the Pope in that land in Tewa is means a ripe squash, and it was created then, and that what they did was they reenacted the way the message was passed was through knotted cord, every day when knot was untied. And it was when you think about it, it was a pretty incredible organization that happened, because back then there were no cell phones, there were no media, there was nothing. And as to how, and the thing to remember also is the Pueblos, there's different languages spoken within the Pueblos. There's the Tiwa, Tewa, there's Towa, and there's the Parisians and Zuni, and then also the Athabascan, the Apache language, and then the Diné language, and so to put all that together had to have been a pretty incredible feat when you think about it, that how they were able to communicate with each other to make it happen on a given day at a given time. And it did happen. They were able to coordinate it. And on August 10th of 1680, the Pueblos rose up, and it was the only successful rebellion of here in the U.S. where another government was driven out, and it was all due to because of religion, persecution. And anyway, what was in 1980 was a reenactment of that. So all the pueblos, we had a relay run from starting at Taos Pueblo, and all the pueblos it was this Nordic court was taken out to all the pueblos and all the way out to Hopi. It was about a 375-mile journey, and it was absolutely an incredible time. And even that, the coordinating in modern times, that took a lot of work. And this was, and I can just imagine, what it was back then. And we can't even imagine actually, and, there was a lot of letters, a lot of correspondence, a lot of meetings to make it happen. And it was a really beautiful moment back then. It was a 5-day run, and they actually had a race at Taos Pueblo that I organized. Herman Agoyo, the late Herman, asked me to see if I could have a series of races. One was to have it at the Pueblo, because that's where it all was planned. And so we had this incredible running event on May 4th of 1980 that we had 300 people show up. And this was before, any of the modern tech,
right?
Everything, all the race devices. And since I was still, I was, in real close contact with people up in Colorado in the running community, I just picked up the phone. I asked Pablo Vijol if he could come down, and I called Anthony Sandoval, and he said, and Tony goes, yeah, I'll come over. And so he came over with Mary, and Tony won. Pablo was second, and there was another runner from Athletics West, I think was third, and then I can't remember the rest right offhand. But Tony, long story short, is 3 weeks later, and the third week of May, he won the Olympic trials in 1980 in Buffalo.
Right.
And,
wow.
And I've always, it was just, and I just remember him running. He looked so fit, so strong, and so sleek, and so light. And I said, and then, and it was just a beautiful morning at Taos Pueblo when he won that race, the Taos Pueblo run that day. And it was just memorable, this event was one of the events that we put on with the Tri-Centennial Commission, to commemorate the Pueblo Revolt. And there was another one also at OK Wingate that summer. And then, of course, the grand finale was the relay run. And it was, I think, looking back, it was a moment where, all the Pueblos, got together, and we all had this there was a certain consciousness in us doing this together, this one certain task, and it had happened. That's my memory, of all that. And then Peter Nabokov created a book called Indian Running, based around, it was not just a Pueblo running, but Indian running in general. But he made that the basis of his book. And pick it up sometime. It's still, you'll be able to find it. You'll enjoy reading it.
I'm excited to. I was looking it up. My dad has a copy, and he's been talking about getting it down to me, but he hasn't found where he stashed it yet. So, but I definitely and so interested in it, because it is it's a history of New Mexico. It's a history of telling what happened in the past, and how we're coming, how we're hopefully trying to make things better from that point, and move forward in a way that we're all kind of gathering together, which, we talked about running helps, everybody's out there doing the same thing. I don't know. I'm just so interested in it.
Right. Yeah, it's a really good part of New Mexico history, and it's just when I was teaching Native Studies at the high school, I had a Native Studies class, and I did use excerpts from that book and other places as well, and it's I think it's a history that needs to continue to be a part of it is a part of New Mexico, and it's
Right.
important to tell those stories, just like you are. I mean, I'm just really I'm really thankful that that you've got this going, and that you're doing this, that you have an interest as a young person to be able to pursue something like this, and
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, I think it is, me, myself growing up, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning now about our state, the area around it that, I didn't learn growing up. And I had this idea of, oh, the Pueblo Revolt, and there was running involved, but to the extent that it happened, and to the extent that the Spanish came in and it attacked the Native Americans, a lot of that gets kind of whitewashed, for lack of a better term, in a lot of our history and a lot of our classes, and I think that definitely needs to change. It's important.
Yes, it is, and we learn, and we learn from those, and we hope that what we did in the past, is not repeated. That we
Right.
have to really keep that going, and it is a very important part of New Mexico history, and it was centered around the fact that in this case, the word was passed through around on foot. It had to
Right.
be, and when you think of it, you have to be awfully fit to go run 20 or 25 miles, through varied terrain to get a message, and some up to 30 or even 40 miles. Like the two young men that were from Tesuque that were hung right inside the Santa Fe Plaza, and they were caught, with the message. I think they had gone down to, I believe it was, I'd have to double check my, I can make sure I'm not saying the incorrect thing, but I think it was either San Cristobal or Galisteo down southeast of Santa Fe. That's quite a ways.
Right.
Go on foot and back, and there's a pretty huge swath of land there where there's no water, and that's just an attestament to stamina, to running, to be able to do that, and
Right. Well, like you
and
said, I mean, planning this in August, I mean, going, we're in July right now, and it is hot. And trying to run through, temperatures have obviously changed and varied in this over the past, several hundred years and stuff. But you got to imagine that without, these stretches of land without water, and this and that, I mean, it was no easy task.
right. And
Yeah. So, so you talked about teaching Native studies. You were a history teacher, right?
I did a little bit of everything. I was primarily a health teacher,
Okay.
and I did PE as well, and then I went into New Mexico history, and then I had a Native Studies class going at the high school, And so it was a different slew of things, but primarily around the health classes. And that was and I taught a course that I called it, there was 8 main areas you have to follow, with the benchmarks in order to pass all the standards and everything. But I kind of ended up creating a little offshoot around books, and I never really followed a textbook. And it was the lead in was always the concept of hajo, the Navajo word for beauty, balance, harmony, and how the mind, body, spirit is all interconnected. And that was always my lead in exercise with the classes, and then moving on into like your relationship to the world, to the universe. Who am I? And your family, your community, and then outwardly all the way, and how we are all connected in some way, and all the things that we do to ourselves that are going to affect us in some way, and either hopefully won't be negative, but and that's when so it was an enjoyable course that I did for quite a while, and they corralled me to also do New Mexico history in the process, and I enjoy that too, and I actually had a course there for a while where I had New Mexico history with it was a Native perspectives, and it was with Native kids. And so we were able to really push the Native history more, everything from the code talkers, and with things that went on at Bataan, all that, And so there's ways to get around it, ways to do it, the ways to make it work, and
Well, that's fantastic that you were able to do that, and it sounds like you were passionate about that, which always helps when you're teaching something. When the kids can sense that passion, as I know they do with your coaching and running, that it just they want to get more involved with it too.
Yeah, it's high school it's always an ongoing process. You're always working at it, and you just don't know what the backgrounds of the kids are. Some could be really having some difficulties at home, or you just don't know what you're dealing with, and you just be really careful. And now with all everything that's going on in our country, I think the concept of health, with the emotional, mental aspect, where kids are and where adults are and where everybody are, that's really becoming it's something that's becoming more and more addressed, and I'm speaking for myself. I think I feel like it's about time. And it's really, really unfortunate. It's just really sad, tragedy when you see what happens in Uvalde, Texas, and Sandy Hook and what have you, and not just those things, but just the different things that go on, and so I'm glad that we're making progress in that,
Yeah, no, that's still fresh, right? That's still fresh on our minds, and especially as educators and coaches, and it's
right.
And parents. I mean, your daughter's in her last year, and
Right.
It's a scary thought to think about, and so yeah, I mean, hoping that things get better and can improve for the next generations. I think it's always something we have to look forward to, hopefully.
Yeah, it's, and I a lot of it is just being just being grateful for what you have, and I, as hard as that sounds, because when you're really hurting, that's really hard to say, it's good to when you come around to you do something like, well, you're getting back to running, you're out there, you're out there physically enjoying your just in the environment, just the feeling of being out there, and how it makes your soul feel good. That's it's all good. We want to go there, and that's a positive of this sport. And sometimes I don't even call it sport, and it's just what it is, and I think that's important, and we certainly want to be competitive. When we want to be competitive, we also have to also remember what comes on later as well, and hope that the kids carry on what they have later on as well, when they're into their 20s and 30s, 40s, and I shared some photos from our workout yesterday morning. We have this hill called Valdez Rim, and it's over in the north side of town. It's a long hill. It's probably about 1,000 meters, and it comes out of the Rio Hondo, and it's a really beautiful little spot to do long repeats on. And I posted the kids getting warmed up and some pictures, and some of my athletes from just the year, I won't call them all. I was getting some really great cut. They're all like reminiscent, just all like hell. I know that really touched them. It really made them feel good, and just all the positive little comments you get, and so, and I'm sure you get that too quite a bit, Sebastian. With yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been doing it as long as you have, but I definitely, will post things, and some of the kids get excited, or someone will message me. I've got a couple of kids still running competitively and just for fun, and I'll get messages of just, they went on a trail that we did a workout on, and they, had to reach out, or, they're talking about the upcoming college season, and it's just to know that still has an impact on them, and
Yes,
it feels good because I know the impact it's had on me. I know what running has done for me, and how I feel about it, and to be able to instill some of that is just nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good.
Yeah. And it's great to hear you talk about it too in that way, because I want to do this obviously for a long time. I enjoy it, and you've had a lot of success in your coaching, and you've had state champion individuals, you've had state championships as teams, you've had top finishes as teams, like, and to hear you talk about again, watching these kids just grow, and being able to reminisce with former athletes, and I feel like that's the most important part of all of this.
Yeah, it's certainly wonderful to win a state championship, and I've been fortunate to win a few, and we have to also always remember the kid at the tail end, that kid that's running 35 minutes, and they will try everything they've got for all they're worth, and they may not be able to get to 30 minutes, and it's all, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can be a state champion, or you can be a 35-minute 5K kid, and as far as what they get out of it, I think it's the same reward, and I think that's an important thing to remember And I feel like I've trying to think of the word here. I guess I've kind of did a circle and really realized that when I was first starting out, I remember I was just so gung ho wanting them to do really, really super well, and of course I still want them to do well, but it's like you kind of like make what you want is the best for them per se, and in the years to come. I think if I'm trying to put the right words, but I think I'm trying to get the right sense over here, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
I do. It's there's you're coaching, you want them to improve, you're doing all those things, but in the grand scheme of things, there's so much more that you're trying to teach these kids, and it's it's very rewarding.
Yes, it's all good, and I I was really touched when I was over at the West at the meet over at Robertson, and your dad came up to me and goes, and we started talking, and he's friends with you're friends with the Segura family in Santa Fe,
Right.
Matt and David, and talk about a small world. I used to go down to Santa Fe, and I used to buy choke cherry jam. Matt and David's their mom, because they would sell at the farmers market there on Saturdays.
Oh wow!
They always had, they would sell this choke cherry jam, and they had all the ends of everything going on with over in Vegas and also in Santa Fe. You know what I mean? It was just like, God, man, it was like, you guys know each other,
right?
And I remember them. David would or Matt, sometimes they would invite me down to their parents' house, and their mom would always have this classic New Mexico food. The chili and the fried potatoes and the tortillas, and I was like, they were so nice. I was like, oh wow. And I still remember the house there. I still remember it sometimes when I drive down through Santa Fe, and it was just memorable. I know I'm going off chart over here, but I just wanted to throw that out. How.
No, it's great, because it's such a small world, and when you start connecting to other runners in the state, you'll find those little connections, and you'll find these things like that where like, oh well, oh, you know them too, well, and it's just so small. There's a family of runners, and it's I had no idea, and their cousins live, right, or nephew of the older one, they're my neighbors in Albuquerque, and my kids play with their kids, and I never even had no connection, had no thought, and when I kind of started talking to them, all these things started coming together, like, oh wow, that's really interesting. And
yeah, I'm gonna tell you a quick story of Matt. Is the first time I saw Matt was over at the Colorado. It was a Colorado cross country meet in my freshman year, and I just remember because I had known about Matt already through high school. He was this really super runner,
right,
and I just remember at the starting line, well before the start, and there was a warm up, and there's Matt Segura walking past me, and he's got this light blue uniform on, the UNM outfit, this powder blue uniform. Is like, wow, that's Matt Segura. I'm just like, I'm totally in awe of him. I was like, whoa, that's Matt. And I was just like, wow. And he's going to be running in this race. You know, it was such a big deal for me. You know, like, but I once told Matt that, and of course, he's just like, oh yeah, right. You know, he just.
That sounds like him. That's
Yeah, it's just you know it's such a small world, and you know it's just like you when I met your dad,
right.
And how he knew them, you know. And well, of course I knew the Seguras, you know. I knew them, you know, as runners, but I also knew his parents, you know. Shoot, you know, I would get some choke cherry jam from them on, you know. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, no, I think, you know, I think a lot of runners will have similar, you know, stories to that, you know, one way or another. I remember, I mean, I grew up in, you know, I raced against Ben, but at the same time, I mean, I was, you know, freshman, sophomore when Brandon Leslie was out there just amazing, and going to college, and he was someone I completely looked up to and followed, and we ended up at the same college for a year, and I was just awestruck of just I get to practice with this guy. I get to spend time with him, and it was such an amazing, you know, feeling for me, and he's, you know, the same way, just so down to earth and just, you know, willing to take anyone under their wing, and it just, yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm really enjoying this, Coach. From it, you know, just I'm enjoying talking with you.
I was gonna say this is a great spot to wrap up. And I just have one more question for you, and that is, you know, what are you listening to when you're getting ready to go out and meet a bunch of new kids for cross country practice in the morning to get you ready to go?
Oh, for music?
Yeah.
I haven't not I haven't really thought. That's a really good question. Right now I can't think of anything right now that comes to mind. I'll let you know.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking this time to sit and talk with me. Is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you go?
I think that's it. I just want to say in our Tiwa language, "tall" on the tall, that means thank you. I am thankful, and keep up the good work, Coach, and the best year athletes this fall. And you're doing a pretty wonderful job down there, and just keep it going, you know, and just keep it up. All right.
I'd once again like to thank my guest for their time, and thank you for tuning in. If you have the opportunity, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts, or just help spread the word. Music was provided by Philip Friedman. You can follow him on SoundCloud at DJ Teach. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at RunningNM. Feel free to drop me a line or shoot me an email at runningnewmexico@gmail.com if you have any questions or know of someone who should be interviewed. In the meantime, keep running, New Mexico.